I'd like to start by inviting our panelists up here as we dive into a deep discussion about country-wise Sesame 2019-20 crop update and outlook. First and foremost, I'd like to start by inviting the moderator of the session, Mr. Sandeep Bhura. May I please request you to kindly take your seat on the stage? Okay. Moving on, as Mr. Bhura comes up, I would like Mr. Sandeep Bhura is the Director, Om India Trading Private Limited. He would be moderating this session for us. I would like to invite on stage next the Senior Consultant for CFNA, Ms. Hashin. Ms. Hashin, can I request your presence on the stage, ma'am? Or as we lovingly call her, Ms. Helen. Inviting up next on the stage the Managing Director of Comma Freak Limited, Comma Freak Group Gambia, Mr. Amrit Kurian. Inviting from Ethiopian Pulses Oilseeds and Spices Processors Exporters Association, Mr. Hale Berhe. Inviting from Bheda Brothers, Mr. Kishore Bheda. Can I hear a round of applause for our gentlemen that are walking up, please? Inviting from Wink Corporation TGI Group, Mr. Sebastian Andrew. Inviting from Agro Power Industrial Trading and Investment Company Limited, Mr. Satyam Batra. And finally, from Intercept, Mr. Poya Thierry. Mr. Poya Thierry. Ladies and gentlemen, we have approximately 1.5 hours for this panel discussion. Before I hand over the session in the able hands of Mr. Sandeep Bhura, once again, let me tell you that you can use the tool slido.com, post your live questions to our panelists here, and I'm sure some of the most pertaining queries will be taken up by the chairperson as he steers this session ahead. I leave this session in the hands of Mr. Sandeep Bhura.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we'll be starting the session with the outlook on Sesame from China. So it will be starting with Hechin from CFNA. You can start the session. Approximately 7 to 8 minutes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to be here. Firstly, on behalf of CFNA, I would like to congratulate the First World Sesame Convention for organizing such a significant conference. Meanwhile, please allow me to take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks for the kind invitation extended by Mr. Srivastava to attend and address this distinguished gathering. I sincerely wish the conference success. Let's look at the Chinese sesame demand. Our total demand for sesame seed is about 1.2 to 1.3 million metric tons, including about 750,000 metric tons for crushing and 250 to 300,000 metric tons for hulling, and about 250 to 300,000 metric tons for other edible uses. Here's the major sesame products and widely consumed in our domestic market. The sesame seed oil, the most traditional and the largest the sesame products in our domestic market. The brand, the Yanzhang, is one of the top brands and the sesame seed oil in China. I think almost all the Chinese homes and restaurants have this product in their kitchens. And we have also the hot sesame seeds for baking and confectionery industries, and the sesame seeds and paste and powder and for other dressings for the Chinese hot pots and salads and cold dishes, noodles, etc. We have 3 main sesame supply sources to meet our demand. And over more than 75% of sesame demand highly depends on international market through the direct import and through border trade from Myanmar and Vietnam. And we have about 25% of sesame demand came from our local production. There was the major major producing the provinces in China. They are neighboring, they're located in the inland of China. Over 90% of our production came from these three major areas. As you may know, China was one of the largest sesame producing countries and the largest exporters in the world in 1990s. And due to the labor shortage rising from the urbanization and the rising production costs, and our producing areas has been greatly reduced since this early century. And thanks to some the traditional habits for planting sesame seeds, and about 200,000 hectares of sesame planting areas had been maintained, which has guaranteed our annual production of about 300,000 metric tons of sesame. And luckily, because of the local government support and the relatively stable income for farmers from planting, our sesame seeds planting areas have been improved in recent years. Still, we have about 40,000 metric tons for exports annually. It seems it's going to be recovering in recent years because of the larger production. Here's our destination countries for exports, for your reference. And in terms of the exports in 2018, 77% of the China's exports for Korean market is for their very special and premium quality requirement. 66% to Japan and 17% to other countries like North America, European countries. And to Korea and Europe, we exported natural and clean whitish sesame seed, and the same to Japan. Here's our import. Since 2003, when China began to import sesame seeds by larger scale, and the China sesame seeds had been growing until 2016. But the market had been very volatile, especially during the period between 2013 to 2016. China sesame imports had rapid growth, hitting a new record high of 930,000 metric tons in 2016. At the same time, the price went on a roller coaster ride after touching the ceiling of 2018 US dollar per metric ton in 2014. Then there began 2 years of sharp declines, followed by the 23.52% of the big drop for our sesame imports in 2017. It wasn't until 2018 we saw significant recovery for China's sesame imports in volume and price. Here, the main supply change for China's sesame imports, we can see the big change for China's sesame supply from the world to China market. And for example, in 2013, there was only one country, Ethiopia, to export more than 100,000 metric tons to China. At that time, and the total sesame supply in African countries to China was less than 70% of China's total imports. But in 2018, the total sesame supply from Africa to China exceeded the 95% of China's total imports. Moreover, we have 4 African countries, and each of them have a supply capacity of more than 100,000 metric tons of sesame seed. And now we have China, we have at least 8 African countries and to be our regular and strong on the sesame seeds supplying countries. Here's the China customer clearance for sesame imports. And we have three main ports for China sesame imports. And you can see more and more sesame seeds and for customer clearance in Qingdao port. And for example, in 2018, more than 17% of China's sesame imports for customers clearance in Qingdao port. But in terms of the actual arrival in the port, I think more than 80% of China's sesame seeds and finally discharged in Qingdao port. That was about, that is nearly about 650,000 metric tons finally in Qingdao ports. So Qingdao is absolutely a sesame center in China, also I think in the world. Here's the main sales price and the stock change for imported sesame seeds in our main ports. The curve in red for the SOB and the whitish sesame seed, that is premium. It is the premium one. It is usually in the $100 or $200 higher than the normal price of the sesame. And the blue one, so for the stock in the main ports in Tianjin and Qingdao. So China, we can see it's very clear, China began to enter an era of high stock, and since the first half of the 2015. Since then, there has been very normal that the stock in the ports had a dramatic change throughout the year. And moreover, and most of the time, there were more than 100,000 metric tons of imported sesame seeds in the ports. And the arrival peak was usually in the first half of each year. Sales prices basically went opposite to the stock change in the main ports. Of course, the higher stock, the cheaper price, vice versa. And as China sesame highly depends on international market, here I would say something about China sesame import for new crop. Of course, there are many factors affecting our sesame import, but they were too complicated to be predicted for normal people. So for the time being, I prefer to focus on the fundamental factor, that is supply and demand. Of course, they were really in balance. In terms of demand, the rapid growth of China's sesame imports was almost over, or at least I can say the China's sesame demand has been gradually stabilizing. It's easy for us to understand it, and from the huge stock of imported sesame seeds and in the ports, and most of the time in the past 3 years, not to mention the very slow and growing consumption sesame demand in our market. In reality, about 1 million metric tons of China's sesame imports almost accounted for 1/2 of the global sesame imports. It was so huge that any change of it easily caused fluctuation in the international sesame market. So now that the China demand for sesame seeds is, I can say, is stable, and the global sesame imports are relatively stable, I think. Turning to the supply side, stock in the main ports, in Chinese main ports. Today, it is about 150,000 metric tons. Still remains high, even has been decreased since this summer. And meanwhile, we are facing more and more sesame seeds from the Mozambique and Tanzania from this month. So that is why our sesame market has been very weak recently. And as for the new crop, and many good news for the production new crop, just now the Tehran has already introduced the new crop situation. Tanzania, Mozambique, and the good production already. And the Myanmar used to plant as much as you can because it's easy for them to sell seeds to China as a neighbor. And this year is no exception. China will continue to plant more, and it seems that at least about 20 to 30% of the planting areas are larger than previous year. And the seeds now growing very well. As for India and other African sesame producing countries, I'm not clear about their situation for new crop. But logically, I think, and I don't think the planting areas will be has been reduced, and because of the better income for farmers from the planting sesame. Also, most of these countries, I think, they anxiously need the exports for dollars. So from now on, I think the weather will play decisive role in the market. And any expectations for the sesame production new crop will dominate the international sesame seeds market trend in the coming 2 or 3 months. So besides the factors, especially the tense and the China and the trade, and will have a very strong impact on China's sesame seeds market because it's very closely related to the currency, and so on. Yeah. Finally, and please allow me a few minutes for a brief introduction of CFNA. CFNA is a very huge organization in China, and every year they have different they have many conferences for different products. And this season, we have several conference for different products like the pulse and flax and peanuts in different cities. As for sesame seed, and we will hold the Sesame Conference and at Kunming, the capital of the Yunnan province, southwest China. You're welcome to attend. Thank you very much.
Next is Amrit. Amrit from ComAfric would be presenting for various origins.
Good night in Turkey. I'd like to wish first Mr. Srivastav and Fortel and the rest of the organizing team of Fortel for this inaugural Sesame venture. We wish them the best of luck. The current presentation is about 4 small origins, very small, but not very known, but upcoming origins in the western part of Africa. Those are the 4 countries, and 2 are francophonic, which is Senegal and Guinea-Conakry, and Gambia is an Anglophonic country, and Bissau is a Portuguese country. Those are the production and the quality that is given by these 4 origins. You have Senegal and Gambia, which are DFT origins, so traditionally they go down to China. And Bissau and Conakry traditionally go down to Turkey because they are supposed to be sweet and good for the tahina and the alwa. Basically, these origins, the season starts in December and ends in March. This year, the price has been pretty stable. The last 4 or 5 years back, the prices were low, so people actually abandoned production of sesame. But slowly, they're getting back into getting sesame to be an alternate crop. These origins are traditionally groundnut and cashew nut countries. So last year's traded price was around 1,300, 1,350 FOB. So those were the prices which they were traded at. And the next crop looks promising. Just a bit concerned on the delayed rains in West Africa. Now, to end this thing, why this small cluster of origin? It's a relatively small place. It's a new origin. Not many people know about it. Mostly India stops at Burkina and Nigeria, and Turkey prefers Nigeria. So these are origins which are discounted. And so it could be interesting for people who have never tried this origin. So thank you, gentlemen.
Next is Haley, presenting about Ethiopia, please.
Good morning. My name is Haile. I'm representing Ethiopian oil seeds, Ethiopian pulses, oil seeds, and spices exporters association. Just to give you some highlights about the developments of Ethiopian sesame seed or the outlook on Ethiopian sesame seed. These are the outline that I have for today, but I'll make it very short because of time concerns. This is the Ethiopian sesame major factors, just to show you what's going on in Ethiopia. So I'm not going to go through this all because it's a background of the country. Rather, let me focus on this paragraph because this shows you the Ethiopian production and marketing prospectus or the outlook. As you can see from the paragraph, starting 2013 to 2018, we can see the production and the harvest areas. I mean, the coverage of the hectares that are, the green one shows the area coverage, and the brown shows you the total production of the sesame seed starting 2013 to 2018. This year's production, as it is shown on the bar graph, it's 280,000, but still this volume looks a bit higher because from the current actual stocks that we have experienced starting November till today, it's not more than 260,000, I think so. This is the Ethiopian production sites or areas where Ethiopia is producing sesame seeds. We can see from all types of crops are produced in the western part of western, northwestern, western, and southwestern part of the country. The main Humera type sesame seed is produced in the northwestern, especially Tigray and Amhara region, and the Walaga type is produced western Ethiopia and southwestern and southern, some parts of southern parts of Ethiopia. When we look at the sesame seed ECX, you know, in Ethiopia, for those of you who don't have some backgrounds about Ethiopia, we have a platform called ECX, Ethiopian Commodity Exchange. So this, every sesame seed has to go through this Ethiopian Commodity Exchange. There is no way to buy directly from farmers as an exporter. The only way that some value-adding companies like factories can directly buy from farmers. Otherwise, nobody is allowed to buy directly from farmers to exporters. So the platform shows almost 90% of the 90 to 95% of the whole production or the whole production traded through Ethiopian Commodity Exchange. So it is just a comparison between 2017 and 2018 price at ECX platform. And you can see the volume and you can see the price. Now, this year, especially 2018, you can see the whole average domestic price from November 2018 to June 2019 is increased by 34%, even though the international market is not increasing same rate, but the domestic price is increased by 34%. This has its own reason why it is happening like this. At the same time, the average domestic trade volume from November 8, 2018 to 2019 is decreased by 17%. So there is a decline in volume of trading, but an increase. It's not. I mean, this seems a logical trend. I mean, the logical trend all the time is if supply decreases, price increases. But this is not the correct face of Ethiopia. It is in Ethiopia, local prices are increasing because of currency problems, the dollar problem. I think some of you might be aware of that. In Ethiopia, the government, the country cannot source the required dollar amount to import goods. As a result, the domestic exporters are bidding in high prices to get that product and then exported, then getting back the hard currency for import purposes. So most people, most of the exporters, they are selling at low prices, normally making a loss of like 30 to 40%. Then they are trying to maximize their profits from the import side by making 60%, 70% profit margins. So that's the main reason where we are looking Ethiopian domestic prices higher than the international. This is the export performance of sesame seeds in the last 5 years, actually. It's just a historical data. And we can see here how the price is fluctuating in Ethiopia, the daily price for the last crop, I mean for 2018 crop. So during May and April, even the cost of sesame per ton was like 2,500 US dollar per ton. But while the export value was 1,600, 1,700, but the dollar value of the domestic price was almost 2,600. So you can see the variation which the exporters are making a big loss. Here we have some of the reasons why the ASIC's daily price is becoming high. that is the number one, as I have told you, the shortage of hard currency in the country, not within the exporters, but in the country. The other issue is we have export for the banks, the private banks. When you go to get loans, they ask you your performance, your previous performance. So why these exporters doing this way is, first of all, if they export, for example, a value of $500,000 in any of the private banks, they can get the pre-shipment loan. The pre-shipment loan. So in order to do or to get that advantage, most of people, they are buying even at higher prices so that they can show their performance in any of the private banks. The other issue that we have is the increasing number of new entrants. When you want to export sesame seed in Ethiopia, it's very simple. You can finish it within 2 days. You can have the license, so coming directly to the export market. The other issue, market manipulation of suppliers. I think one of the big drawbacks of Ethiopian commodity exchange is it is easily manipulated by suppliers. If they collide between the suppliers, if they collide to push the market upward, they can do easily. So this is also one of the reasons that we are experiencing in Ethiopian sesame market. The arrival of cargo at ECX is also, that means in connection with the suppliers powerful. This table shows the new crop sesame seed and export performance in comparison with 2017-18, the 2 year. So here we can see the export performance of 8 months. It's only 187,000 metric ton compared to previous year. It's a 21% decline. 21% decline. So this year's performance of Ethiopian export was very much less than previous years. Now, let me give you some information about Ethiopian sesame inventory at present. This is in ACX from October 2018 to July 7, 2019. It has been traded 217,000 tons. So inventory on the hands of producers and suppliers minus the export minus the traded through ECX is 15,000. So we expect new season sesame export performance November 18 to 2019 is 187,000. So if you calculate it, we have 60,000 tons. So we expect total current inventory like 75,000. But now we are in August, mid of August. I can say some of around 20,000 metric ton is already exported. So in total, we might be around 55,000, not more than 55,000. So the current inventory in Ethiopia is not more than 55,000 tons. Compared to last or previous year's performances, this 55,000 might be very less than previous years. Here we have export performance trend by major export destinations. Actually, here, Israel is the number one, then China, United Arab Emirates, whatever. But one thing to remind you, most Ethiopian exporters, they opt, in Ethiopia, if you are selling directly to China, the export proceedings, that means the dollar will come through government bank, that is Commercial Bank of Ethiopia. So if you are exporting through government bank, you may not get that dollar for import purpose. So most of exporters, they are forced to sell through private banks. So in total, if you look at the United Arab Emirates, Vietnam, Singapore, export volumes, totally they are going to China. Because of we have an issue of China and non-China export trends in Ethiopia. So I feel this United Arab Emirates, Vietnam, and Singapore export performance are totally to China. So maybe the Chinese volume is still higher than the Israel's, but I can see the performance of China is still declining from time to time when it comes to Ethiopian export performance. This is just also another graph. So, what are at last, what are the challenges of the business? High domestic price, unpredictable demand, that is the global demand that we mean, and export performance prerequisite for bank loan and forex that I have already mentioned you. The new entrants or easy new entrants, declining productivity, default, a problem both for the exporters and buyers. These are all are the challenges. But nowadays, the government is planning to control centralize the Sesame export and trading through through Ethiopian Commodity Exchange. The government has already set a committee to study how to go forward starting from new season. So in the new season, there might be some improvements on the default issues, on the prices that are becoming unbearable in Ethiopian Commodity Exchange. So what's the current situation on Ethiopian system? That means the new season. Actually, when we look at the current situation, the sowing pattern was very good. The coverage is increasing at a large. We estimate like 700,000 plus hectare total coverage of the Sesame area. And we had, and still we have a very conducive weather condition, but it is too early to say this amount of production is going to be harvested. But if things continue, still Ethiopian production might be 300,000 plus total production. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening me.
Thank you, Eli. Thank you. Next, we have Kishore Beda presenting for Indian crop scenario.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to see a large gathering here of different Sesame stakeholders from different parts of the world. The topic given to me is Indian sesame seed crop 2019-20 update and outlook. Let us first consider India's role in world sesame trade. India has a unique distinction of being a producer, consumer, exporter, and importer at the same time for sesame seed. Indian exports have hovered around 300,000 tons a year, which is approximately 15% of the world sesame trade. Because sesame is grown in different part of India, harvested at different time, India is in a position to offer different grades of sesame seed, white sesame seed, edible black sesame seed, a quality similar to golden yellow sesame seed, and crushing quality sesame seed. Also, very small size sesame seed is available in India. In last 15 to 20 years, India has invested heavily in hull sesame industry, and the present capacity exceeds 250,000 tons. The exports of hull sesame seed are about 180,000 tons to 200,000 tons each year. India has also been exporting sesame seed oil, and the exports have reached around 10,000 tons in the last few years. Coming to import side, India has been actively pursuing import of sesame seed since 2012-13, and the quantities have ranged from low of 20,000 tons to a high of 85,000 tons in the last year. This year, because the Indian crop was very, very poor, the export of sesame seed between October 18 to June 19, import of sesame seed, have reached 127,000 tons. Now, if we add the arrivals between July, August, and September, Indian imports for crop year 18-19, October to September, could reach about 145,000 tons, putting it as an importing origin, third or fourth import origin after China, Japan, and Turkey. The major sesame growing states in India, the sesame is grown in several states in India to a smaller or larger extent, but these are the major sesame seed growing states. The chart also summarizes the harvest time for different states and the quality those are harvested from those particular states. As far as the crop is concerned, India plants about 1.8 million hectares of land for sesame throughout the year, which is highest in the world. However, the yields are much smaller compared to elsewhere in the world, and that's why the Indian crop is not as high as it should have been. The two crops we can summarize. One is winter crop, which is harvested in September to November, and September to early November. And the other is the summer crop, which is harvested in May and June. The winter crop, the area planted is 1.4 million hectares, and summer crop is about 250,000 hectares. So both these crops, they make up for 90% of the land which is dedicated to sesame seed in India. As we said, for winter crop, the planting area is now stabilized around 1.4 million hectares. The planting time depends on onset of monsoon, which is generally mid-June to early August. Main producing area for sesame seed, winter crop sesame seed are West India and Northern India. It's namely Gujarat and Rajasthan states in West India and UP and MP states in North India. This year, the planting pattern has been as follows. From 20th June to end of June, around 20 to 25% of land has been planted. In 1st of July, about 60% of land has been planted. And between 20th of July and 10th of August, the balance 15 to 20% of land has been planted. So we expect that the marketing of this seed would commence from end of September and will go on progressively from different areas would harvest until about early to mid-November. Of the winter crop, 80 to 85% is whitish seed, about 10% is crushing quality, and 5 to 6% is edible black seed. The one question that everybody want to know, and the answer is most difficult, is how much crop is going to be harvested in different origins. Now let us try to make some sense out of it. As we know, the total crop size is planted area multiplied by estimated yield. The planted area in India, we depend on government release data for planted area. Government progressively releases data every week. They collect the data from state level, and all state level data is combined by the central government and it is released. The data that we have as of now is the release up to 9th of August, based on which when we extrapolate on based on historical experience, it looks like the area for winter crop could be about 1.37 million hectares this year. Coming to yield, as I mentioned earlier, the yields are very low for the winter crop. This is the data for last 3 years. In year 2016-17, the yield was 225 kilos per hectare. 2017-18, about 300 kilos per hectare. And last year was very, very low, less than 150 kilos per hectare. So we can say that in an average year, it is around 225 to 250 kilos per hectare. In a good year, maybe around 300 kilos per hectare, and if the year is bad, less than 150 kilos per hectare. What can we say for the yield this year? Well, it is a little too early. We are still in 20 to 60 day of crop cycle. Sesame seed plant is very delicate and easily gets affected by weather. May it be dry spells or excessive rains. So to make any meaningful assessment is a little too early. Also this year, the monsoon in India has been very erratic and volatile. Many non-sesame growing areas have received heavy bouts of rains leading to flood-like situations. If similar situation would have happened in sesame growing area, the present scenario would have been very, very gloomy. Thankfully, that has not happened. With all sympathy towards the areas which have got flood-like situation. Having said that, two sesame growing states in Western India, namely Gujarat and Rajasthan, they did receive heavy bouts of rains in second week of August, where the rains were about 200 millimeters to 400 millimeters in 12 to 16 hours of time. The actual impact of this has not been assessed yet, but the trade feels that the yield could suffer by 5 up to 10%. In the states of UP and MP, several field trips have been made by different stakeholders. The reports that we get from there is the crop is progressing reasonably well, and so far there are no cause for concerns. We have some pictures. First two are for crop in UP and MP. As you know, it looks healthy and nothing to worry about so far. The last two pictures are from a low-lying farm in Gujarat. One was taken on 8th of August, and the second one is on 12th of August after the heavy rains on 10th and 11th of August. And you can see how the crop has suffered because of these heavy rains. Again, I would like to make a point that this is not across the state. This is only to demonstrate a point that rain can really spoil the party. Summer crop 2020. Summer crop is harvested in May, June. We are still 10 months away from that, so it is early to talk about it. However, summer crop is very important because when the winter crop offerings and availability beginnings to decline, summer crop starts coming in, and it fills in very nicely with supply situation. Also, it helps to stabilize the prices. So any discussion on Indian crop without summer crop is incomplete. Two major summer crop area, one is in the western side of India, which is Gujarat. It's known for edible white and edible black seed. This is entirely irrigated crop, hence very good control on yields and quality. The yields are known to range between 1,000 to 1,200 kilos per hectare. The area that is dedicated to this directly depends on the water availability with the farmer. Since we have had very good rainfall this year, we expect that water availability would be good. The larger area would be planted, and the crop size could be about 60,000 tons or a little more than that. The other summer crop is on the eastern side, West Bengal. This is predominantly double-skin, low-oil sesame seed. The area planted is normally 200,000 hectares to 225,000 hectares. Yield again is good, around 800 to 900 kilos per hectare. Crop size this year was a little more than 200,000 tons. We expect and we hope that the same performance would be repeated in the coming year also. This seed is mainly used for crushing and nowadays also for hulling. What is in store now? What do we expect in the ensuing season? One thing we know for sure is carry forward stock is going to be very less in India, maybe 20,000 tons, 25,000 tons. Winter crop, if all goes well, based on current situation, could be about 300,000 tons. And in the event of this happening, we should see less volatility and softer prices because other origins are also reporting good crop. Import coverage from India would be very, very subdued and value-based. Yesterday and today, many people have asked whether India would buy, at what price India would buy. I think Indians are going to be very cautious. They are not likely to jump in very soon, and their response will be very, very measured. Last is disclaimer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kushaba. Next would be Sebastian, presenting for Nigerian crop scenario.
Hi, good morning to you all. My name is Sebastian Andrew. I'm representing Wing Corporation, which is part of TGI Group. I will be explaining a briefing about the Nigerian sesame seed crop. These are the topics which we'll be going through. First, a little bit about the country information. Nigeria is one of the most populated country in Africa, and more than 30% of the population is engaged in agriculture and farming. The major crops which are exported are sesame seed, cashew nut, cocoa, rubber, etc. The country is surrounded by the neighboring countries as Benin, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. The main ports which the cargoes get exported are from the Lagos and Harcourt. Nigeria produces sesame seed. At the same time, there are neighboring countries such as Niger and Chad also produce sesame seed, and they are landlocked countries. So their crop used to pass through Nigeria and get exported through Nigerian ports. There are many regions and states in Nigeria who produce sesame seed. We can broadly classify into two sectors. One is the northern belt, which is coming on the top of the Nigeria, and the central belt. The normal Nigerian crop harvest period is spread from September to November, and the season extends up to June, July. The crop will be available almost 8 to 10 months in a year. The current season harvest has started in small areas, and most likely the cargo will start coming up in September. And the exports will start by end of September and October. As of now, there is no casualty in the climate conditions. So overall, the crop is looking good, but it's still too early to confirm. These are the export volumes which we gather information from the destination markets. You can see a steady growth in the export quantities from Nigeria from 2017-18 season, around 260,000. And in the 18-19, we are crossing to 300,000. And we expect the crop to be better, and it will be touching or it will be crossing 300,000 tons this season. The challenges in Nigeria: we need more exporters to invest in better infrastructure, in facilities, in cleaning the machines. Majority of the exporters are using the older Chinese machines. I hope the people are improving, and they have to put up a bit more investment in the machines so the country can have a better business in all the markets. The main challenge that Nigeria is currently facing is the port situation. This issue is happening in the last couple of years. Most of the exporters are suffering because of this. A lot of delays are happening because of the port situation in the country. And this seems to be, the situation continues, and the government is taking measures to sort it out. But hope this season also this issue will be continuing. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Sebastian. Next is Mr. Satyam Batra.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So, I'm Satyam Batra from AgroPower Group, to cut the long name short for the company. So, we're a multi-venture group in Sudan and internationally. We are doing manufacturing of FMCGs, cosmetics. One of our ventures is Sesame cleaning and sorting. So, yeah, that's the presentation on Sesame in Sudan. So, Sudan, sesame in Sudan has been one of the oldest known oil crops. Camel-driven oil mills, they were seen back in early 1900s. When the British government came in, they introduced mechanized agricultures. Cotton has been shifting a lot from, agriculture in cotton has been shifting in Sudan to sesame, to sorghum, to wheat. All this is because, there was a lot of logistical issues, there were a lot of industrial issues due to sanctions imposed by the United States of America. However, sesame today looks very promising because there's crop advances, there's cash available to farmers early before the crop even comes in. When you're talking about cultivation regions, you're talking about southeastern regions of Sudan. Labor is mostly Ethiopian. Weather is very supportive. It has good rain. It has good sunshine. It has good winds that can support sesame culture. Not 5 million exactly, but if you look at the continuous growth rate, you're talking about 4.8 million hectares to be done in 2019-2020 crop. When you look at this map, the red ones are the ones with mechanized agriculture. The ones with blue markings is basically manual or the traditional mode of agriculture. When we're talking about the most famous Gadarif, it is not the highest production, but then the output per hectare is one of the highest. You're talking about 0.4 tons per hectare. The next one is Sinnar State. See, as I was talking before, cotton has lost to sesame. So, yeah, it has lesser water requirements, lesser fertilizer requirements. When we're talking about 2011, it was less than 1 million hectares that was cultivated for sesame. It has been, as of now, we are projecting 4.8 million hectares. From 2018, if we follow a normal trend, you're talking about a cumulative growth of 12%. Mechanized agriculture has improved from 30% in 2017 to 60% in 2018. And overall yield per hectare has improved for 0.24 tons per hectare to 0.31. 2019 is projections as of now. The previous data has been confirmed by FAO, the UN organizations. 2015 and 2017, we had two major crop issues. There was crop disease that was found, and the crop could have been better. But yes, as of now, we are projecting good numbers. So 2015-16 period, there has been a very high local investment in cleaning facilities. There's additional crop demand, so the farmer is going towards more sesame. Additionally, when you talk about 2017 onwards, there has been a very high inflation and the dollar versus local currency has fallen down by almost 400% in the last 2 years. So given that imported edible oils or imported crops or imported seeds is much more expensive, and sesame oil consumption has been increased. This is output versus export. When you're looking at 2016, you're talking about 525,000 tons in crop, 467,000 export, 781,000 output in 2017, and 550,000 tons in export. 2018 was 981, and 704 in export. There has been, if I come back to the local consumption, so if you see 2017 onwards, the consumption locally has slightly increased. This is because there's a lot of new ventures that have come into sesame oil processing, tahina requirements, and also a lot of other local processing factories which are basically developing furthermore innovations into sesame. So. As I said, surge prices of other edible oils, sunflower, groundnut, cottonseed, are actually a reason for demand for sesame oil processing. So, current situation in Sudan, we are running through a very sensitive political situation. One of the first primary contracts of a transitional government has been just signed yesterday. It will take at least 6 months to see what would happen, but hopefully the new prime minister, who is a great economist, he is going to develop several new economic policies which are going to help Sudan. So 2019 quarter one, the average trading price was 1650 CNF. Again, similar for quarter two. 2019-20 may see an increase in price, and there might be a crop delay. Apparently, there has been some flood-like situations in the lower parts, but fortunately, some of them had still not been sowed in. And the crop cycle in Sudan is much lesser than any other country in the world because of the sunshine that it enjoys. So, plus there had been a very chronic fuel shortage that had delayed the tilling and plowing processes. So there has been new sorting, cleaning, hulling facilities. They are they're actually supporting the value chain of sesame from Sudan itself. FAO has started a very new program of giving out weather-tolerant hybrid seeds. Plus, it will help in increasing the per hectare yield. Port Sudan facilities, the government is actually looking for new port management companies where trade, where cargo can move out faster, port congestions will be lesser. And hopefully, in the next year and a half, you're talking about international banking facilities coming in once sanctions are removed. That's all. Thank you.
Next is Mr. Thierry presenting for Burkina Faso.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Puya Thierry. I come from Burkina Faso. I am a Francophone, but I will try to present you in English. My presentation have 3 points. We have context of the sector. Secondly, we have a sesame market in Burkina Faso and new reform in our country. You know, Burkina Faso is a West African country, and economy is essentially based on agriculture. And we produce sesame, which procure income for many farmers in our country. In our country, we can produce sesame in all the areas in our country. Crop season starts in June to October, and marketing starts in November. And in our country, more than 1.5 million persons cultivate sesame in our country. We essentially have a free variety that the main variety cultivated in our country is S42. It is a whitish sesame. In our country, the average national production for production, I will take it, production over the last 5 years is 200,000 tons. And Burkina Faso is ranked eighth in the world among sesame exporting country in 2018. Burkina Faso organization of the sector of sesame in our country. We have interprofessional, which a governing organization. We have a farmer, we have a trader, and also manufacturer. Yearly, we have a big meeting which mobilize many person in November month. And during this big meeting, it is the occasion for us to launch Sesame campaign in our country. And we also have actor organizations which organize meeting yearly. In our country, we have many partners in our sector. We have public administration. We have some ONG like Lutheran World Relief, which help to connect farmer in the markets. And also, we also have some projects that are helping us for training and promote new seed, a new sesame seed for our production. This is the sesame seed marketing channel in our country. We have many group, farmer group, we have trader groups, and we also have a manufacturer. So you follow the channel. This is the target of sesame, which start for farmer to be exported. The main customer for our sesame is Singapore, Japan, Ghana, China, the Togo represent nearly 90% of Burkina Faso export. We also have some competition like India, Ethiopia, Sudan, Nigeria, and Tanzania. You have always see them. But we noticed that Togo and Ghana is a country of transit of our sesame, but not up, they are not a big consumer. Like perspective for Burkina Faso, weather forecasts predict a good sesame campaign. Production prospects are good throughout the country. The production forecast for the 29 to 2020 season are 215,000 tons for this present season. In our country, we also have some reform in order to make our sesame good quality for export. So we essentially have some referential like in Abenorm, and also in the Minister of Agriculture, we also have some document we call export cahier de charge, export specification. This document is fix the condition to export sesame in our country, and it is an obligation for everybody to follow it. We are fixing this because we want our sesame have a good quality and have a better competitive for our uh, destination country. Thank you for your attention.
So with this, we end all the presentations from various origins. Now we can start with the question and answers, and everybody could probably use the app if they have any suggestions or questions. So starting with Herchin for China, we would like to know, you say the consumption in China is about 1.2 to 1.3 million tons. And we see over the last 3 to 4 years, it's been like this. So do we see a potential to grow to 1.5, 1.7 in the next couple of years?
It's not easy.
Yeah, I know. But
Frankly speaking, it's not easy. Just now I explained, we have the passing the so long time and faster growing. Now that you see in the past 3 years, and the stock and in our main ports for roasted imported sesame seeds has never been below the 50,000 metric tons. And I think the about the more than about in 8 months a year, we have the more than the 100,000 metric tons. It is stored in our main ports, cannot move. So before the 2015, it never happened. At that time, the maximum stock and even the weak season, it is about 30,000 metric tons. Of course, the total imports have been enlarged by one time. But if so, I think the reasonable stock should be around 50,000 metric tons. But now the things is different. And also, just now the gentleman introduced and more good production predicted. So have a higher pressure and for our demand. We cannot be forced to consume too much.
no, you see, when you say the port stock was 50 to 60,000 tons, at that time you were importing about 400 to 500,000 tons. Now you're importing 800 to 900,000 tons. So the port stocks needs, normally 20% of the total import.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think the reasonable stock should be around 50,000 metric tons.
When you used to import 500,000 tons, even then you had port stock of 50 to 60,000 tons. Now you import about 900,000 tons. The stock should be more.
But the local production is getting more and more than before.
Is getting more. So
yes.
what is the current scenario for this year? What is your estimate?
I think the last year we have a normal production that is about 30,000 metric tons.
300,000 tons.
300,000 metric tons. This year I think at least 20 or 30% larger.
It could be 400,000 tons this year.
Yeah, you can understand
350 to 400.
Yeah. Depends on the weather finally.
Of course, that is for sure. Okay, so next question is for Sebastian. We would like to know, in terms of value addition in Nigeria, what are the new ventures coming in? Hulling factories, oil factories?
Yeah, some hulling factories are coming up in Nigeria. Currently, there are 2 active hulling factories. I think more are in pipeline. As of now, that's a development.
So, for example, in the next 1 year or 2 years, what kind of hulling capacity would you be?
I think in next 1 year, 1 new factory is coming up. Otherwise, there's nothing much visibility is there at the moment.
No other oil factories, any other value addition in Sesame, Tahina?
As of now, we don't have much visibility on that side.
Okay.
But it could be definitely coming up.
Can we have a figure of estimate hull sesame exported out of Nigeria?
We don't have the exact numbers, but it could be somewhere in the range of 15 to 20,000 tons.
And Mr. Batra, we would like to know, you mentioned that the export out of Sudan for last year was about 700,000 tons.
Yes, that's official 2018 figures.
Perfect. So which are the top three importing countries?
So you're talking about China, Turkey, Jordan.
So if we can have some numbers on those.
As of now, I don't have, I mean, so if I would take it out into a ratio, so say about 40 to 50% goes to China,
So that's about 300,000 tons.
should be about that.
But the Chinese import shows it is much less. They imported 150 or 60. What was the numbers that we? 250.
Okay, because the data that I have, well, again, with Sudan under international sanctions, there's a lot of spread numbers that I have. So there's a lot of destinations that it goes to, and after that, really, there's no, as Ato Haile has said as well. So probably shipped out to Dubai and sent out to China. Yeah, for that, I'm just saying the numbers that are official to me. I mean,
No, that's why we wanted to know, because this is the first time that we have come across such numbers. So we just wanted to clarify ourselves. I mean,
Okay.
these numbers are pretty big. You're talking about a current crop of 1.1 million ton.
this is projected, yes.
That's what.
Yes,
And the previous crop, which is already been harvested, is about 900,000.
981, yes.
Yeah, so out of that, is 700 is exported, and balance 200 would be local consumption.
Yes, 200 is local, approximate.
What about the current stock levels at Sudan?
I cannot exactly project, but it's almost on completion. Yeah, you're talking about somewhere not more than 40,000 tons to be very elaborate.
Can you give us a ratio of how much of white sesame and red sesame out of the 900,000 tons that you sell?
Okay, generally, Gadarif is about 40%
Okay.
of the total.
So that's about 360,000 tons. Kadar.
Yes,
Okay.
of the whole 900
Yeah.
something thousand.
Right.
And that's the most valuable crop in Sudan when you're talking about Gadarif versus non-Gadarif. So Gadarif will always fetch you more money.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So that's 30 to 40% approximately.
And non-Gadarif would be, and the red, I would like
So
to know the
red,
reddish.
mixed. So we generally do three types. So there's one whitish, there's non-whitish, and there's the mixed.
Right.
Yeah. So Gadarif will be 30 to 40%, and then the mixed, non-whitish, basically.
yeah.
The least one is the mixed color.
And that will be how much? Because for Indians, that's the most attractive product. So
Okay. Fairly speaking, I'm very new to Sesame. It's just been 3 weeks.
Okay.
So I would not have too many numbers on this. If you want, I can post the numbers checking up offices.
Sure.
And I can post it up on the website or the flash. I can flash it around like the presentation.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And Amrit, you draw some new new origins for us. So in these origins, what new work is being done by the government or by the people to increase the cultivation of sesame? And why do you think these will be the new suppliers to the world?
See, Senegal, Gambia, Bissau traditionally have been cashew countries, and it originally was a groundnut and a sesame country. But what happened was you had a lot of volatility on the sesame front. So as a result of which, a lot of people weaned away from sesame. But of late, I truly feel that when you are having an average price of around $1,000, I feel that there's a huge scope for sesame production to increase in these origins. But yes, cashew is taking over as a very stable and profitable crop for the country. The country per se, you have a lot of agencies coming in and supporting, like USAID and CRS specifically. but that is about it.
As far as India, Kishore bhai, I would like to know for the hull sesame front, we have a production capacity of about 300,000, 250. So, how much is the local consumption in India? If you can give us a brief idea.
We believe the local consumption in India is very price sensitive. At higher prices, it drops sharply, and if the prices are low, it has potential to move up also. Generally, last year, the trade estimate that the local consumption was about 110,000 tons. Hull could be 60 to 70,000 tons out of that, and 40,000 tons was the edible white seed.
That would mean predominantly we would have 200,000 tons available for export because our local consumption is say 60.
Yeah, we will have 200,000 tons available for export, provided we have customers for that. As of now, we do have customers for that. But then the way Nigeria and elsewhere the hulling capacities are coming up, we are in for a tough competition in times to come.
Haley, we would also like to know what is being done in Ethiopia for value addition, hulling factories or oil, any oil factories, or could be taina or halwa factories coming up.
I think this time there are few companies who started this value addition. For example, there is a new company, I don't know the name of the company, who is almost starting this production.
There is already a few companies doing hulling in
Yeah,
Ethiopia.
hulling and tahin.
How many factories are there?
Like 5.
5 already there.
Yeah.
And new, how many new entrants this year?
These are the all together 5.
And new coming. I mean, for the
New, everybody is planning to have this value addition
really.
factories, but those who have already coming to the market are like 5 companies.
So this EPOSPA doing anything for? I mean, any kind of help are you giving? To the
No,
people?
our association is not helping them, but the government is keen to support them to get into this value addition. In Ethiopia, there are some 4 industrial parks already under construction
Okay.
for value addition of pulses and sesame seed.
And do you have any numbers on export of hull sesame out of Ethiopia?
That is insignificant.
Okay. So whatever is produced there is used locally?
No.
These 5 factories?
98% is exported.
5 factories, they must be
These
produced.
factories, this year, they have bought around 7,000 metric ton.
7,000.
Yeah, metric
No,
ton.
that's not insignificant. That's quite a lot. Okay. And I would, Hachin, I would like to know one more thing about sesame paste consumption in China. We have, everybody here would like to know how big is the consumption of sesame paste and what is it used for in China?
Sesame paste and in the past it is used as a traditional dressing. No statistics and in the market. Now it became the very fashionable dressing for the kind of the usage, but we have no this exact idea. But I think according to the seeds and the direction the seeds was transported, I think at least more than 100,000 metric tons for sesame paste.
For sesame paste.
Yes.
So when you talk about sesame paste used in China and tahini that is manufactured in the Middle East region, what is the difference? Can you identify any difference between the two? That
I don't know the tahini, the ingredients inside, but the Chinese paste and is a pure one. Just the crushing, yeah.
as far as I know, I mean, correct me if
It's
I'm
very
wrong.
natural. No any ingredients inside.
Only sesame that is.
Yes, very natural.
So that's
Maybe some the factory it draws out of some oil.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you? Is there any kind of roasting involved, or you just
roasted. You mean for paste?
For paste, do you use natural sesame or how?
Yeah. I think that depends. Most of it is natural.
Natural sesame.
Natural, yeah. Tahini is used honey, right? Tahini, yeah.
They normally wash it, hull it here themselves, and then do it.
Yeah, always washed but it is natural.
It's still natural. And one more thing, as far as China is concerned, we have seen in your slides there is a change from your top exporter was Ethiopia. Now we see it has changed to Sudan in last 2-3 years. Any particular reason for that, or Haley made some points very clear to us because a lot of
Means
Ethiopians.
why we shifted from Ethiopia
Yes,
to
yeah.
Sudan. Actually, in terms of the quality, especially taste, and the Ethiopian sesame seeds is the most similar to Chinese one. That is why even the price in the Ethiopian sesame seeds is more expensive from other origins. We insist to buy, but now the problem is the price is too expensive. So our economic situation, the consumption ability now is cannot keep pace with the price level of Ethiopian sesame seeds. And also for the Sudanese sesame seed, we have a base for consumption because besides the Indian sesame seeds and the Sudanese sesame seeds, almost the pioneer of the sesame seeds exported to China. That is 1990s we start to using the Sudanese sesame seed. Yeah. So if the price is reasonable, and some people that they prefer using the Sudanese sesame seeds instead of others, because the appearance, the size is better than other origins. But maybe there are some disadvantages. The taste, some the origins, the taste tastes and bitter. But nowadays, as the production enlarged in Sudan, and more choices for Chinese, and we found that some areas we found the tasty seeds. Yeah.
So, any other questions? I think that'll be for Haley once more. Uh, when did ECX came into picture? I mean,
Pardon?
ECX came into picture in Ethiopia.
2008.
So, what improvement or development have you seen because of ECX for the Ethiopian exporters?
I think the contribution of ECX to the exporter side is you can get raw materials easily. You can decide today.
But this was possible earlier also, directly buying from.
No, earlier it was not possible because you have to have people around growing areas, many people even. So that was not easily. So that was not easy to get these raw materials. But as of now, it's very easy to get crops or cargos from ECX. You can buy lots of cargos in a daytime also. So the advantages are there, but the disadvantages within Ethiopian Community Exchange is, first of all, the quality is the problem. If it's like standardized, but when you go to buy grade 2, grade 3, it might not be as expected. That's one major challenge. The second challenge is that we are facing is the price, because suppliers might be collided to push the market up. And the other problem that we have seen is the timing. The timing. When you buy, as of today, from Ethiopian Community Exchange, a cargo, you might indeed to get your cargo after 10 days. So that is a major problem also that we are looking.
Thank you. And Kishore Bhai, one question for you. What what is your, in your opinion, would be, I mean, the crop size for Indian sesame, and looking at the weather, our normal crop size is about 340, 350. So would we be able to reach that level?
Well, two factors. Number one, the weather has to behave now on. And secondly, we have to assess between Gujarat and Rajasthan, which had heavy bouts of rains in last 10 days or so, what kind of damages have happened. If we think that those damages are restricted to 5% or so, there is a possibility that we could get a crop of between 300 to 350,000 tons. But all this comes with a lot of ifs and buts. So we have to really wait and see what happens.
And there's one question for interesting question for you, Miss Harchin. Yeah. So this is from the. It says, when you choose to buy sesame from any origin, what are the most important factors that you think about? Quality, price, volume, or the on if they will honor the contract or not? Which is the most important factor that you have in mind?
Before the business, I think the honor.
Honor. So it's
But
very
after
clear.
business, for me, quality is the most important.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting question, actually. There's some very nice questions coming up. Okay, this one I think is good. Any idea? Install capacity. So, carryover stocks, I think you already spoke about. Did you clarify us the carryover stock for the last season?
Well, I said not much. I mean, generally quarter two, if I talk about 2017, 2018, it is not more than 10% of the crop. Generally,
70,000 tons.
maximum. But yeah, but mostly people have actually moved it out. Looks like this because of port congestions and a lot of government policies coming in. So they've for our company for that matter. So we used to carry a lot of stocks in the country itself. But now we've started maintaining stocks outside the country. We've already opened up Turkish storage facilities and Chinese storage facilities. So for this, because the local currency was devaluating and there was a lot of policies that were, I would not say anti-export, but there was a total there was a cloud in terms of what do we need to do further on. So stocks are really moving out of Sudan. Yeah.
Thank you. So this is for Sebastian. Sebastian, everybody is worried about the Nigerian port situation. So what is going on? Please throw some light, enlighten us.
I already explained during my presentation also. The problem will continue, but the government is trying to do the best. But I feel this season also the problem will continue. Currently, they are exporting through two different two different ports, so that is helping to ease out some of the congestions. But still, delays will happen this year also. That's a fact which we cannot neglect.
Which Nigeria was traded last year, low to high.
Can you give us a price range of sesame that was traded from Nigeria last season, the lowest and the highest?
I think the price range is between 1350 to 1550. Yeah, $300 is the range.
And there's one more. I don't know if Ms. Sachin, if you are able to answer one question that is about if Chinese allow import from Guinea Conakry under DFT. There is a country, Guinea and Conakry, if these two origins are allowed to import into China duty free? Guinea and Conakry.
It's not allowed. We have the name list, and do you understand? We have about 28 African countries.
Actually,
Let me check out this.
Guinea, Conakry.
Beijing,
Guinea. Guinea and Conakry.
Conakry, yeah. No, not in the name list. Yes, that means they're not allowed to export to China.
They are yet to complete the process, actually. They have been accorded.
Maybe you can add a.
Actually, Guinea, Conakry, and Bissau have been accorded DFT status.
Okay.
But somehow the governments in these two countries have not completed the process. So sometimes it takes some time from these countries. But these two countries have been accorded DFT status for Sesame.
So, Haley, one more question for you. Would like to know if what happens in Sudan with currency, the official rate and unofficial rate, is there something like that in Ethiopia also?
No, in Ethiopia, actually there is, because now exporters are starting to sell. If you bring some proceeding dollar amount from outside, either you can have the choice to import yourself or sell it to another person. So there is a problem with this currency.
And if anybody can throw us light of, the total hulling capacity globally, I think Kishore bhai, if you can talk something.
Well, hulling capacity, there are two. One is hulling capacity for bakery, and other is hulling capacity for tahini. If we strictly speak about hulling capacity for bakery, I would think it should be about 350 to 400,000 tons. And India, as we discussed, is about 250 to 70,000 tons. So India makes up for about 75%, 80% of that.
Next to India, which is the next, hulling destination?
Traditionally, it used to be Turkey, but now Turkey, a lot of tahini conversion is taking place nowadays. I think Nigeria should be number one now. China, of course, yes, China.
China. So the $1 million question for Arjun, what price level do you think Chinese would be eager to buy new crop? Doesn't matter which origin. What price levels the Chinese customers would start buying new crop?
Some question is that one.
No.
Yeah, it's a difficult answer. But
You don't have to buy. Now we are selling.
for me, today look at the stock here,
Yeah.
and the more and more coming there,
Yes.
and it's difficult. But I think maybe in the $1,200 is more reasonable.
More reasonable level.
Yeah, but of course, the lower the better. But maybe it's unreasonable for the sellers, the farmers.
Yeah, because the next, I think, crop coming is Nigeria. So please, everybody keep their ears open. 1200 levels. That's nice. And thank you. And again, next question. You can ask.
About the SPT of Burkina Faso.
Archie?
SPT. Burkina Faso is getting SPT.
So we would like to know about DFT certificate from Burkina Faso. What is it?
So you're waiting for the issuance in the Burkina Faso directly. I checked before I left China, the Chamber of Commerce, the people in charge, they contacted the embassy. The people, the side, and they are preparing it. Maybe something. Maybe they need take some time to organize the computer system and the people in charge in Burkina Faso. Maybe choose the one of the commercial chamber waiting time. And they hope on this. We hope, of course, all the Chinese buyer will pay more attention to it because it's now it's not convenient. Seems that within this year, the answer they say so.
So this season it will happen. This season it will happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so this question is for you. What is your take about the currency situation in Sudan, and how would it affect the trade?
So currency, which was trading at, unlike Ethiopia, which is a small parallel to a more bank secured market, you're talking about ratios in Sudan to be 80-20, where 80 is parallel. So, but the rates have really come down from the start of 2019 at 80 SDG to a US dollar. It has come down to somewhere around 65. Yes, but okay. So the biggest advantage is that the difference between apparently in 2019 start, what had happened was three parallel markets. So there was one cash, bank, and the official bank rates. So a banked dollar was purchased at a different price, a cashed dollar at a lower price because there was liquidity crisis. Yes, but with obviously a new government coming in, they will want a stable currency. Yes, it. I would not say artificial, but yes, they would have to maintain it. There's a high bill of exchange. There's a high deficit in the bill of exchange that you're talking about that they need to cover up. But still, yeah, I mean, you're talking about somehow prices to be stabilizing as well. But I'm not assuming the 1,200 figure right now. Obviously, I would not take it back to office as well from China. But still, yeah. I mean, we are as per our office, we are assuming similar price factors as per 2019, 2018 crops, 1,600, 1,550 ranges. Yeah.
This question is for all the panel members. A lot of people here are of the opinion that we need a common arbitration ground for Sesame contracts, because some arbitration bodies doesn't work in certain countries. There are others which doesn't work in some other countries. So we need a common arbitration body wherein all the contracts can be registered with a single arbitration body. So what are your views about it? We'll start with.
Yes.
There are a lot of people face defaults, problems happen, quality claims are there, and the trade is increasing day by day. And the product has become very expensive now.
Yes.
Also expensive. Chalo.
Yeah, should be. I mean, see, for Sudan, for example, one of the main reasons why knowledge or technology spread is less is because networking or connectivity, for that matter. So, for a Sudanese gentleman to come out in a trading forum or in a world convention is very likely, very less likely, because number one, he would not be able to access internet at that point of time, or probably they would not even reach out to him because of constraints in his particular country that would not, make him able to open a website for that matter. So yeah, I mean, a common arbitrary ground would be something very beneficial, at least for countries like Sudan, where communication is really a barrier in trade.
Thank you.
It's an interesting thought, but we have to see how the geographies in different countries and their laws will comply on this. And the trade is not very matured across all the origins and markets. So we have to come to a common table, discuss, and look into it. But it's an interesting thought.
I think regarding this Sesame business, we have to have a common platform where we can exchange market information, even, for example, the default cases that we are looking from both sides, buyer and sellers. We can post these problems on a common platform so that people might, I mean, if we use common platform, so the default issues, whatever that we are facing now and then, it will reduce. It has a big impact.
I think it would be a welcome step in the right direction. But the biggest thing would be to get everybody on board. The origins would come on board, but the buying countries, especially those who are not attending conferences, they have to come on board. And if one can get that, there's nothing like that. That will be a very good thing and positive thing to happen.
The question was,
Right. Arbitration for defaulting?
yeah,
Dealing with defaulting?
we want to understand what is your view if we want to have an organization, one body for arbitration of contracts, because defaults and quality problems happen a lot. So there is no single body which regulates all that. So if there is a body that can do that, would it be helpful for you, or what are your views? Is it possible or not?
It's good business. Yeah, so as usual, I think whether you have checked the details of the contract you done with the Chinese, the version. Usually we have the clause, the arbitration clause. We appointed the CCPIT as the body to deal with the disputes, something like that. But it is a little complicated and amidst the proceeding. And maybe you can, if you have an evidence, maybe firstly you can go to CFNA to ask for some coordination.
My question is an international body which can regulate, because CFNA would be again China centric.
Usually the London, that one. Yeah,
FOSFA.
usually use
But
this.
is the FOSFA arbitration valid in China?
Yes, and some many contracts that they have put this as one of the clause, and it is workable. I heard some the companies they have this experience, and when they have the defaults and they deal through this organization. Finally, they win. I think they got the returns from the defaulter. Yeah.
So the million-dollar question comes to Kishore Bhai again. What is your idea and expectation of prices, opening prices of Indian natural sesame?
Very difficult to comment. As I said, a lot of factors would go into that. We have to wait to see the actual crop outcome. And I would honestly not like to make any prediction in that aspect as of now.
you. Thank you, everyone. I think that's the end of the session. It's a pleasure doing this with you.
Check. Can I please request everyone to stay on the stage, please? Requesting everyone to kindly stay back on the stage. Everyone, can we have a huge round of applause for this amazing discussion? Thank you so much, Mr. Bhura, for steering it so beautifully. Everyone, and I think all of you have really indulged with, engaged with, and enjoyed using the Slido.com tool. I urge you that post-lunch, after our presentation, once again, when we engage for a panel discussion, please make full use of Slido.com to present your immediate queries, your pertinent queries. As regards the challenges in Sesame trading are concerned, we have a detailed session coming up regarding that. So, of course, feel free to post your queries on that. As of now, of course, this challenge was more about the this discussion was more about Sesame crop. I would request Mr. Bhura to present a memento to each of our speakers, our panelists this morning. And I would like to start by, of course, requesting Mr. Bhura to present a first memento to the only lady on the stage. Let's hear it for Ms. Helen, the Senior Consultant, CFNA. A memento for Mr. Amrit Kurian, Managing Director, Comma Free Group, Gambia. A memento for Mr. Haile Bere, Ethiopian Pulses Oilseeds and Spices Processors Exporters Association. Okay, Mr. Kishore Bheda, Bheda Brothers. A big thank you to Mr. Sebastian Andrew, Wink Corporation TGI Group. Mr. Satyam Batra, Agropar Industrial Trading and Investment Company Limited. And finally, Mr. Poya Thierry. Thank you, sir, for your time. I would like to request the chairman of Starling Group, Mr. Eden G, to please join us on the stage to present a memento to the session moderator, Mr. Sandeep Bhura, Om India Trading Private Limited. Requesting everyone to step forward for a group picture together. Thank you so much, Mr. Edenji, for doing the honors. Well, thank you, gentlemen, and of course, the only lady on the stage for this amazing, riveting discussion.